right. So we've got a whole stack of info here on debt management plans, and it seems like you're trying to figure out if a DMP is the right move for you, and well, we're here to help break it all down.
Yeah, absolutely. We're going to unpack kind of all the nitty-gritty from how it works to, the potential benefits and drawbacks so you can make a well-informed decision.
Perfect. So first things first, what exactly is a debt management plan? I know it's not a loan, but beyond that, I kind of need the full download.
Yeah, so you're right. It's not about like adding more money into the mix. A DMP is essentially like a structured repayment plan, and it's designed to help you manage and eventually like eliminate your unsecured debts. So things like credit card balances, medical bills, personal loans, that sort of thing.
Got you. So instead of juggling like a zillion payments with those crazy high interest rates, you're basically consolidating everything into one manageable monthly payment.
Exactly. And that's where these credit counseling agencies come in. They act as like intermediaries working with your creditors and actually negotiating lower interest rates. And they might even waive some fees for you. So imagine slashing your interest rate from, say, like 25% all the way down to 8%. I mean, that could mean saving hundreds or even thousands of dollars over the life of your plan.
Okay, now that's where things get interesting. But walk me through the process. How does a DMP actually work from like start to finish?
Well, it all starts with you reaching out to a credit counseling agency, but make sure it's a reputable one, of course, and they'll help you kind of assess your overall financial situation. So they'll dig into your income, your debts, your expenses, and even your budget just to figure out if a DMP is even a good fit for you.
That makes a lot of sense. You wouldn't want to just jump into something without making sure it actually, aligns with your goals.
Exactly. And if it seems like a DMP is a viable option, they'll work with you to create a personalized plan. So this involves them actually contacting your creditors to negotiate those lower interest rates and more manageable monthly payments that we were talking about.
So instead of sending payments to like, a million different creditors, you just make one single payment to the credit counseling agency and they handle like distributing it to your creditors, making sure everyone gets paid on time.
That's the gist of it, yeah. It really simplifies things tremendously and can provide some much needed relief, especially if you're feeling overwhelmed by all those, individual debts.
Yeah, for sure. This is starting to sound like a pretty appealing option, especially for someone who's like drowning in high interest credit card debt. But is a DMP the right solution for like literally everyone?
Well, that's a great question. And while it can be like a really powerful tool for a lot of folks, it's important to remember that a DMP isn't one size fits all. So let's talk about who this might be a good fit for. Well, the ideal candidate for a DMP is someone with a steady income, but they're struggling to keep up with high interest, unsecured debt. They might be feeling a little bit overwhelmed, maybe even missing payments, and they just need a way to kind of regain control of their finances.
Okay, so it's more about finding solid footing when you feel like you're slipping a bit, but it's not like a magical fix for every single type of debt, right? What about things like student loans or mortgages?
Yeah, you're exactly right. It's important to remember that DMPs are specifically designed for unsecured debt, like those credit card balances or medical bills that we were talking about.
Yeah.
Mortgages, car loans, student loans, those are all considered like secured debt. So a DMP wouldn't directly apply to those.
Gotcha. That's a key distinction for sure. So for those who have, a significant amount of unsecured debt and are considering a DMP, what are some of the main like benefits that they can expect to see? I know we've touched on a few, but let's break it down a little further.
Sure. So I'd say the most significant advantage is typically the reduction in those interest rates. And as we mentioned earlier, this can lead to some pretty substantial savings over the life of the plan. And then those savings can actually be redirected towards paying down the principal even faster.
That snowball effect of lower interest and then more money going towards the actual debt, that's got to feel pretty motivating, right?
Absolutely. And beyond just the financial advantages, there's also the benefit of like simplified money management. Imagine only having one payment to keep track of instead of juggling all those multiple due dates and minimum payments.
Yeah, no more like scrambling to remember which bill is due when or facing that mountain of envelopes at the end of the month.
Exactly. And that simplification, I think, can do wonders for your peace of mind, too. Just knowing that your debts are being managed in a structured and timely manner, plus those consistent on-time payments, they can actually gradually improve your credit score over time, even if there's a small dip initially, as you close some of those credit card accounts.
So it's more of a long game,
Yeah.
but it's really about like building a stronger foundation for the future.
Exactly. It's about gaining control, not just seeking a quick fix. And remember, you're not alone in this process. Those credit counselors are there to guide and support you, offering valuable financial advice and helping you develop like better budgeting habits that will serve you well even beyond the DMP.
It's almost like having a personal finance mentor in your corner, which is awesome. But let's be realistic, no financial solution is perfect.
Hmm.
So what are some of the potential drawbacks of a DMP that our listeners should be aware of?
That's a really important point to address. A DMP does require commitment.
Yeah.
These plans typically last for several years, so you really need to be prepared to stick to that payment schedule for the duration.
So it's more of a marathon than a sprint, requiring discipline and a willingness to stay the course, even if, some unexpected expenses come up.
Precisely. And while those lower interest rates are definitely a game changer, most credit counseling agencies do charge a nominal fee for their services, usually just a small monthly amount.
Which makes sense. I mean, they are providing valuable expertise and support, but it's definitely something to factor in, when comparing the overall cost savings.
Absolutely. Another potential drawback is the impact it can have on your credit score. So while it typically recovers and even improves over time, there might be a temporary dip initially, especially since enrolling in a DMP often involves like closing your existing credit card accounts.
Okay, so it's a bit of a trade-off, potentially sacrificing a bit of your credit score in the short term to kind of achieve greater financial stability and a stronger credit history down the line.
Precisely. It's about weighing the immediate impact against your long-term financial goals. And speaking of alternatives, it's important to remember that DMPs aren't the only option available for tackling debt.
Right? So if a DMP isn't like the perfect fit, what other options are out there for someone who's, trying to get a handle on their debt?
Well, let's explore some of those alternatives. If you have a decent credit score, you might want to consider a debt consolidation loan.
Okay.
So this involves taking out a new loan to pay off all your existing debts, ideally with a lower interest rate and a single, more manageable monthly payment.
So it's kind of like you're streamlining your debt, right? Consolidating everything under one roof and hopefully saving some money on interest along the way.
Exactly. And with a consolidation loan, you're dealing directly with a lender, so you actually have a little bit more control over the terms and conditions.
That makes sense. What about debt settlement? I heard that term thrown around, but I'm not totally clear on how it works.
Yeah, so debt settlement involves negotiating with your creditors to settle your debt for less than what you originally owed. And while that might sound super tempting, it's really important to proceed with caution.
Why is that? What are some of the potential downsides?
Well, debt settlement can like really damage your credit score, and the negative impact can actually linger for years. Plus, there's no guarantee that your creditors will even agree to settle, so you could end up in a worse financial situation than you started.
So it's a bit of a gamble and probably not the right move for everyone. Are there any like DIY debt management strategies that someone could try on their own?
Oh, absolutely. If your debt isn't overwhelmingly large and you're comfortable managing things yourself, you might consider the debt snowball method. So this involves focusing on paying off your smallest debts first, just to build momentum and stay motivated.
Yeah, I can see how that would be helpful at getting that psychological boost from knocking out those smaller debts first.
Right. And then there's the debt avalanche method, which focuses on tackling the debt with the highest interest rate first, so you minimize the total interest you're paying over time.
Wow, so many different approaches. It seems like the key is really understanding your own financial situation, goals, and risk tolerance to find the strategy that like truly aligns best.
Couldn't agree more. It's all about making informed choices and taking control of your financial well-being.
Okay, so we've covered a ton of information about DMPs and debt management strategies in general. What are some of the key takeaways that you'd like our listeners to kind of walk away with?
Well, just remember that DMPs can be a really powerful tool for managing unsecured debt, especially if you're dealing with those high interest rates, but they're not like a magic solution for every single situation.
Right. It's all about understanding the pros and cons, weighing those trade-offs, and making sure it actually aligns with your own individual needs and goals.
Exactly. And even if a DMP isn't the right fit, there are those alternative paths to explore, like we talked about consolidation loans, debt settlement, even those DIY methods. The important thing is to actually take action and find a strategy that works for you.
Great advice. And before we wrap up, one final thought to ponder as you continue on your debt management journey. Imagine if you could negotiate those lower interest rates yourself, would you even need a DMP?
That's a really thought-provoking question, and it really highlights the value of those credit counseling agencies and the expertise that they bring to the table.
Absolutely. It's all about equipping yourself with the knowledge and tools to navigate those sometimes choppy financial waters. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into debt management plans.